We're going to be looking at how Batman Arkham Knight performs on the RX 5500. It's the 4GB version and is paired with the Ryzen 5 5600G. Before we run the benchmarks, let's take a quick look at the in-game frame rate using my recommended settings, which will be shown on the screen.
You can't stop us now. You should have left on the bus.
As you can see, it runs anywhere from 60 to 90 FPS, depending on what's happening. Now this is with the 16 gigs of RAM in dual channel. So if you only have one 8GB stick, you should probably expect worse performance. I would like to see how high the game can peak, but in the settings 90 FPS is as high as it will allow us to go. Okay, you should have a general idea by now of the performance. If you aren't interested in the benchmark, you can go ahead and skip to the results. They'll all be down in the description with the chapters. Alright, let's go.
This is what I stay behind for. Is he crying yet? I want to make him cry. Batman, get up!
Before I give you the final outcome, let me just mention that the benchmark test frame rates you've just seen are going to be slightly less than the results I'm about to show you. This is because of the performance overlay that does affect frame rate. With that out of the way, let's look at the results. First up is the benchmark with only one 8GB RAM stick, which means we're running it in single channel. For low settings, we had a minimum frame rate of 69 FPS, max of 181 FPS, and an average of 117 FPS. At the recommended settings, we had a minimum frame rate of 64 FPS, max of 176 FPS, and an average of 108 FPS. For max settings, we had a minimum frame rate of 60 FPS, max of 157 FPS, and an average of 97 FPS. Now we're going to be moving on to the 16GB of RAM test, which runs in dual channel mode with 2 8GB sticks of RAM. At low settings, we had a minimum of 86 FPS, max FPS of 196 FPS, and an average of 137 FPS, which is a 17% increase in average performance compared to the 8GB of RAM single channel benchmark we showed before. With the recommended settings, we had a minimum of 82 FPS, max of 193 FPS, and an average of 129 FPS. That was a 19% increase in average performance compared to the 8GB RAM test. Finally, with max settings, we had a minimum FPS of 74 FPS, max of 159 FPS, and an average of 115 FPS. This was an 18% increase in performance. As you can see with these PC specs, Batman Arkham Knight will perform best running in dual channel mode. If you're interested in seeing me benchmark more games on this computer, let me know which ones you want me to check out. I'm mostly only looking into games that have built-in benchmark tests, which makes comparisons way easier. That's it for this benchmark. Thanks for watching, and subscribe if you would like to see notifications for future videos.